It's the waitingfornextyear.com podcast. I'm your host, Craig Lindell, and this is the first podcast with our brand new sponsor, Minuteman Tickets. They are locally owned in Columbus. We're just really excited to have a sponsor, to be honest with you. You've heard lots of other companies talk about tickets and how to buy them and their cool apps and websites and all these different things. And the Minuteman Tickets website is awesome. You should check it out, minutemantickets.com. You can check out the tickets you want to buy. But here's a little secret. If you want to save yourself some fees, call them directly. Call 614-943-3000, 614-943-3000. All this will be in the show notes. So if you're going to check out that Smashing Pumpkins reunion tour or whatever it is you're going to do this summer, Minuteman Tickets. We were talking about movies today. Brian Spaeth is on the line. How's it going, man?
It's good.
We haven't talked about movies in a while, and we've got a really good one, Black Panther.
Can I ask them about the sponsor?
Yes.
I just want to say, it popped in. If you got a minute, get a ticket. Is that good?
You're giving them a tagline in a British accent.
Yes. Got a minute, get a ticket.
Yeah,
Do you think they'll get mad at that, or do you think they'll like that?
They won't get mad, but I don't know that they'll necessarily adopt it.
I think they should adopt it.
All
right.
Of course I'm glad you do, because you came up with it.
Need a ticket to Black Panther? Got a minute? Get a ticket.
They don't sell movie tickets.
They should. Everyone's buying tickets to Black Panther.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Black Panther. How many times did you see it, first of all?
You know what? I've only seen it once. I would really like to go again, but I just haven't had a chance. I made time to see Star Wars: The Last Jedi 4 times, so maybe I'm just being unrealistic. I don't know.
You saw The Last Jedi 4 times?
Yeah. And I cried every single time. Do you want to do a little mini Last Jedi review? Like 4 minutes? I'd be curious to see what you thought of it.
Yeah, let's do that before Black Panther. My quick review before I let you kind of spawn the conversation here is that I think it's really good, and I think it'll be viewed even better once we see where the third movie in the trilogy takes us.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first time I saw it, I cried 8 times in total. I listed them all out. I don't have it on me, but I could probably recall them all. But yeah, I think that it will be viewed better in the future, because I think it's a really, really smart movie. There's a few missteps, but it felt to me, Force Awakens felt like a real rehash of A New Hope in some ways. I didn't think as much as some people have kind of harped on that point, but this almost felt like a deliberate attempt by the director to make sure that they were going in a different direction. So I liked that element of it. The only thing that I thought of a different way they could have done a few things, and it would have been a little more rousing, because I felt like, while I loved the end, everything that I assume everyone has seen this, but spoilers. I liked everything they did with Luke, but I felt there was a more rousing, joyful way to do that was a little bit more based in I don't know, just like swashbuckling adventure type stuff that would have been a little bit more inspirational. So, but still, I liked it. I don't agree with most of the complaints that are out there about it. I feel like everything that happened with Rey and Kylo Ren was really well done, and I really enjoyed it. So
it gave us one of the most iconic Star Wars scenes that we ever could have possibly asked for, with the throne room scene, which I thought was just phenomenal.
It was amazing. When that was all going down, I gasped in my seat. I was like, oh my God, because it was like, it's one of those rare times where I have no idea what's going to happen now. It's like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know which was just a cool feeling. And the visuals on that, when they go back to back and the slow motion, it was really just well done. So I did cry at that part.
I thought that was really incredible as well. And I thought a lot of the complaints that I read, without diving into all of them, but a lot of them just felt like old Star Wars fans thinking that they should be making Star Wars movies for old Star Wars fans instead of first resetting the table and setting it up for the kids. I mean, I was just looking at kind of the younger generation watching the movies and trying to see it through their eyes as well. You know, I think a lot of the, you know, that I'll grant you that Lucas's second trilogy was not up to snuff, but I always felt like a lot of the Jar Jar Binks jokes were like, dude, it's not for you. It was never for 18, 19-year-old you. This was supposed to bring in the 12, 13, 14-year-olds, you know, or something for them.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, when you know, we're the age where the original, you know, we were kids for the original Star Wars movies, and we didn't relate to Obi-Wan Kenobi. We related to Luke. We were like, Luke's the guy we want to be. And yeah, a lot of these, like, you know, older generation complaints seem to be like, well, why isn't Luke the coolest guy anymore? You know what I mean? When it's like, well, it's not Luke's story anymore. I mean, it is in some ways, but Rey's the one who has to carry it forward. And they say that pretty on the nose in the movie. I mean, he's like, let go of the past, you know? So it's pretty clear the message was being sent. And it's interesting what you said about how they close out this trilogy, because one thing that I kind of said at the end of this movie, I was like, wow, this actually could have been the end. It felt like the end of a trilogy, because it's really like, it's the resistance, rebellion, whatever you want to call them. They're like stripped to like 20 people at the end. And yet they're like, this is all we need. We have hope. And that really feels like an ending where it's like, yes, the fight goes on forever. I didn't really feel like, there's, you know, you look at the end of Empire Strikes Back, the end of even The Force Awakens, there's like high anticipation of, okay, well, we know that plot threads A, B, and C have to be closed up. Whereas this doesn't really feel like anything is left hanging at all. If you go from the standpoint of well, it's not just going to be episode 9, it's going to be episode 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 forever, you know?
Yeah, so, no, I get your point, but at the same time, you do have the Rey versus Kylo Ren thing that we just has to be, it might not even have to be permanently resolved, but it needs more resolution than what we got. That is definitely dangling. Or they're going to be, you know, Batman and the Joker and fight forever. Yes.
You know, going along the scale of we hate each other, we like each other. You're captured, I'm captured forever. We just don't know. Now, we know they're doing 2 other trilogies, one with the Game of Thrones guys and one with Rian Johnson, that are totally separate from all this. So we'll see if those take place in different time periods, or if they're just different parts of the galaxy and it all kind of takes a Marvel method and converges at some point. We really don't know. But if you like Star Wars, there's a lot of it coming. That's one thing. Speaking
of which, and this is the last thing we should probably talk about Star Wars related before we go into... they're almost like the same, you know, universe at this point because they're both owned by Disney. But I'm very nervous about Solo after seeing trailers.
Oh yeah,
I'm very nervous about that.
I've never wanted this since it's got prequel syndrome written all over it. Like, it's funny. My old blog doesn't exist, but when there were first rumblings of a Han Solo movie, like long before it was confirmed, but where it was just like it was right after Lucasfilm sold to Disney, and there was like, oh yeah, maybe we'll do this, and one of them was like a Han Solo origin, and like I was just like, no, like it can't be. There's just no way it can be good. And I wrote like a fake page from the screenplay on my thing, and it was all about how he got his vest. It's like, I just feel like that's what this movie is. It's just I don't have. I mean, there's cool looking visuals, but I don't want to see this. I would want to see this if it were like a random one-off adventure that had nothing to do with anything. Just like, yeah, here's Han Solo on some random thing with people you've never heard of before. But no, I don't want to see how he got Millennium Falcon from Lando Calrissian. I don't want to. This feels like prequels. It's just a checkbox. Like, yeah, the Kessel Run. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see how he meets Chewbacca. I don't want to see any of this stuff.
They should have just taken all this energy and created a Netflix TV show called Space Plane.
Space Plane? What?
Yeah, like it just Han Solo wasn't meant to be his own story. It just wasn't.
Right, yeah, that's...
So I'm with you. I think it looks cool, and I would watch it if it was a show on Netflix, even if it was not in the Star Wars universe, potentially. But just why did it have to be Han Solo?
Yeah, Han Solo is like half his thing is he's just like this kind of rogue, like almost like a little man of mystery. It's like, he's a scoundrel. He's half the time he's probably lying to you. So it's like when he says he made the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs or whatever it was, it's not supposed to be something we actually see. It's supposed to be something where you're like, well, that's just some like BS he's spouting to make himself seem cool. So like if they
go out and prove that he actually did it, it's actually going to ruin it.
Right, exactly. It is the prequels. Everything in the prequels is all about like, here's all the stuff that we told you about, like actualized, and we're removing all mystique from it. we're totally taking everything that you thought was special about it and just stripping it away. It's less is more in this type of stuff. We're not supposed to see this stuff. So, and it's weird that they did it based on the prequels. Somehow they misunderstood what people hated about the prequels. It wasn't, George Lucas's writing and directing was pretty poor, but it was more that there was no story there. It was just like showing us stuff because they thought we wanted to see it, And
I'll reserve judgment. I'm definitely going to see it. Maybe I'll be surprised and they'll accomplish things that I didn't think that they could have accomplished. But it just... my anticipation level is that it's going to be about a 7 or a 6.
Yeah. Yeah, there will be like parts that like, I'm sure on a technical basis it'll be really nice and there will be cool visuals and you get some new like toys in the Star Wars universe that look pretty cool, but like it's just not going to have, it's going to be it's going to feel very procedural, obligatory, bland. Like, here's when we said we were making a Han Solo origin movie, it's exactly what you imagined it would be. Like, here it is.
Well, here's the deal: we almost got the Han Solo movie when they made Rogue One. She was kind of like your Han Solo, and then, but the most interesting thing about Rogue One are the side characters and the robot, and so it's just. I don't know how they're going to do that. Like, we've already met the side characters and the robot and the Wookiee for Han Solo. And so now it's just going to be stroking fanboys.
The thing about Rogue One is, it was about stealing the Death Star plans on a plot basis, but that movie is really about those characters.
Yes.
And which is pretty much what you said. That's what sets it apart. And I don't think it's I don't love it, but I think it accomplished what it was trying to do about as well as it could. But the synopsis to the Han Solo movie, the official one, is literally like, we're going to show you this and this and this and this. These are all the things here. Anything that was mentioned as background for Han Solo, we're going to show you in this movie.
It's like canon fulfillment.
Yes, exactly. Check boxes. So anyway, all right, let's talk about Black Panther.
Yeah. So I'm not overly familiar with Black Panther as a character. As most people know who listen to this and listen to our movie podcasts over the years, I'm not comic book guy in particular. I'm comic book movie guy. So when it comes to canon, I don't know much about Black Panther. I learned a lot. And I'm sure you'll tell me there are some things that they just got wrong compared to the comic books. So that stuff won't bother me. I thought, I'll let you go first. Like, what were you anticipating? How much were you anticipating this film?
I was anticipating it a lot from more as like Marvel Universe Part 18 than I was the Black Panther movie. So, I love this whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. So having a whole new piece of it, it's really somewhat separate from everything else was the part that I was anticipating. And from that standpoint, it gave me everything I wanted. It was like, so, we talked a lot about world building in the past, and the world building on this was phenomenal.
Oh, it was amazing.
In that they didn't just like, the tendency, I feel like the danger in this, like, I feel like if they'd done this a long time ago with made a Black Panther movie, like say in the 90s, the thing they would have done, just because they were scared to go too far outside the box, is made, like, yes, a hyper modern, like technologically advanced African country would basically be like America. It was like, with this, they really expanded. If the director said, like, he said, I'd never been to Africa. I went there and I spent a lot of time there, and like I learned about the culture and all this stuff. And it really was, the way the city looked, the way the people did things. So everything was just like it was very African. Not that I'd been to Africa or studied African history, but it wasn't just like, okay, it'll just be a modern city, but it'll be all black people. You know what I mean? So,
well, and this movie only could have been made by an African American director, and it probably wouldn't have happened. They would have tried to make Spike Lee do it in the 90s or whatever. We're in a time and a place where there are black directors.
Yeah, it's really, and God, that the guy Ryan Coogler, he's like so talented. It's like it's crazy because like it's such a he doesn't have. He's not like a Martin Scorsese where it's like, okay, there's certain stylistic things happening that let it's Scorsese, or like Wes Anderson, or it's like, but there's something that is so distinctly his voice, and I don't, he's only made 3 movies, so but all of his movies have been so just like, you can just tell there's a definitive like voice behind it, where it's like nobody's messing with this. This is coming from one place because everything is so tight. That's the thing with this. It was really cool. Everything was so tight. Everything had a purpose. I guess not wedging in too much Marvel stuff and the larger Marvel story helped with that a lot. But yeah, the world of Wakanda was just like so well built, and it's just like the Marvel universe just expands to this new place and has this whole other like segment to go play in now, and it's just like it's everything. This is my childhood with Marvel Comics like come to life. It's just amazing. So anyway, I didn't read a lot of Black Panther growing up because back then he never really had an extended series. He'd have a series of series, and they ultimately wouldn't succeed. And then, so my knowledge of Black Panther was largely limited to his guest appearances in other comics. So I actually didn't know that much about Black Panther, like in the way I do like Spider-Man or the Hulk. So I didn't really have too many, biases as far as needing things to be this way or that way. So I had nothing in that realm to speak to at all. But I don't know. I really loved this movie. I really did, and it's so perfectly timed how it came right now, and I love the success it's having, and it is so blatantly addressing, the social issues we have in this country. But and it's really on the nose in the way it does it. But at the same time, it's not like insultingly on the nose. It's just like, it just deals with it really well without, I don't know, making, does that make sense?
Yes. So I think in a lot of ways, I felt like it does speak considerably loudly in this moment, but I think it would have 3 years ago as well. If this director had been capable of pulling this off 3 years ago. So there's a universality to it as well, that it's not going to feel of the moment 10 years from now. That's all.
Right.
So you're right. It fits in this moment, but it doesn't have to fit in only this moment.
Right. No, of course. I mean, I think yes, you're right. It would have worked. It would have been just as effective, but I think it's, I don't know if more effective is, it just feels like right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, the timing could not be better.
Yeah. It really I keep waiting for someone to. I think some reporter offered up cash for someone in the White House press corps to ask Trump about Wakanda and what he was going to do about it, just to see what he'd answer. Because he'd be like, he'd pretend he knew everything about Wakanda, and he'd have no idea it wasn't real. It would be great, but yeah, so the only thing I had with this movie that I didn't love was I did actually think Black Panther himself was a little bit boring. All the supporting characters were like amazing, and he himself though was a little bit like, I love the path he took, and I love the conclusions he came to, and but he also, in some ways, like, I guess at the start of the movie, like, yeah, his father has died, which is obviously a terrible thing and hard for him to deal with, but also he's like really happy to become king, and it's just more of a, like, I just felt like he didn't have like a real natural character arc himself. He needed these outside forces to come and like challenge him. And I just found him a little bit boring.
I agree with that, and I thought that even in and spoiler alert, even in triumphing in the end, that he was overshadowed by his complementary characters as well as his adversaries throughout the whole movie. And maybe that's important for setting him up. Maybe that was a part of his journey, and it'll pay dividends going forward. But I think we're used to the hero like really, really being in that spotlight at the end of every one of these movies. And even at the end of this movie, I kind of was still thinking about his adversary.
Yeah. Well, the thing that was so interesting about this is his Killmonger was right. Like his methods were wrong, and his desire of how to execute this was wrong, but he was right. And
that Wakanda needed to share itself with the world.
Yeah, they had a responsibility to do that. And because it's funny, like Wakanda basically takes like a very Trumpian, which is why it did feel very timely, a very Trumpian. They're like, Wakanda first, we're going to take care of ourselves and screw everyone else. And but at the same time, he didn't necessarily look down on that. But when you really think about it, that's what it was. And so, like, especially when you insert the African American element into it and where Killmonger came from, like, yeah, he was right. Like,
it's a weird thing to make such a bad guy right.
Helping us. So I like that aspect of it, and of course I'm glad that T'Challa made the right decision at the end there, and now the Marvel movies will have to deal with what the comic book movies have to deal with all the time, or the comic books themselves had to deal with all the time. Like, if this technology's out there and it's being shared with everyone, why does anyone die? Why is anyone paralyzed? Why, you have to deal with all that stuff. But
I think they're up to the challenge. They already dealt with that. I loved how they weaved in the Avengers to Spider-Man: Homecoming. Yeah. And so
it's one of those things where you kind of just accept that that's part of the genre. That's even though Black Panther crosses over with Captain America, not everything from Black Panther has to necessarily come over to Captain America's comics. So it's kind of just how it is. And yeah, of course they'll deal with it. That's the thing with these Marvel movies. This whole Marvel universe has been so amazing. We're 18 movies in. Even the worst of these movies are pretty decent as far as like action adventure movies. But the world they built is so cohesive. And it's just like, I don't even doubt that, like, any question I bring up about any of this stuff, like, of course they're dealing with it. They've dealt with all of it. They do this so well. It's so amazing. It just makes me sadder and sadder about the Justice League and all that stuff. But Marvel is just so good at this point.
Well, and it's very similar to the real world. I mean, we've seen what Elon Musk is doing. We've seen the innovations that we've brought into our own homes in this country over the last 50 years, and they're not everywhere. Adoption around the universe doesn't happen in a minute. And just because now there's a vibranium being, exported and explained to the rest of the world doesn't mean that it's scalable to everybody whatever. That they're not going to cure everybody's paralysis.
Right. So yeah, overall, I really have no complaints about this movie. It's funny. I only usually I cry a couple times during these movies. At this point, I cry when the Marvel Studios logo comes up. Like I'm so into all of it. And but the only thing that got me in this movie was the very end, where they're in Oakland and the space, their ship comes down, and when the kid goes up to him and he's like, who are you? And he gets that look on his face, and it goes to the credits. I was just like, yeah, it's perfect. That was like, because it's so like it's just so cool. I don't know how else to put it.
The side characters were absolutely incredible in this movie. His mother, played by Angela Bassett, his sister, Michael B. Jordan, Forrest Whitaker, Martin Freeman. They all nailed. I thought all the side characters were cast perfectly, and the performances were all in service of the story without. Some people overshadowed Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, but I still felt like everybody stayed in their shoes, and it was just really good.
And they all had things they wanted. You could have shifted the focus of the movie around to any one of them. You could have made it a Nakia movie, and you would be clear. You'd be like, all right, I understand what Nakia wants in this story. They were all just really well drawn. And the performances were great, and they all leapt off the screen. This movie, it'll be interesting to see. I know it's like a February movie, but it'll be really interesting to see when awards time comes around, because it's going to be hard to ignore this on several, certainly things like costume design and set design. Creating that whole world and having it just be so like just cohesive and well done. It's going to be really hard to ignore that movie, but it'll be interesting to see if it comes up for things like Best Picture. It feels like one of those movies, and at some point I also feel like Marvel Studios is going to start getting rewarded because they've changed the industry. They don't make like one-off superhero movies anymore. I'm talking about the industry as a whole. Everybody's trying to make a universe, and it's not easy.
Well, and every now and again we do get kind of an Avatar or a Return of the King that not only dominates the box office but does kind of supersede its popcornness and become award worthy. Mm-hmm. This one potentially could be. Ryan Coogler is certainly a director that you think that the Oscar committee or whatever would want to pay attention to. It's not just...
Oh, yeah.
It's a director with some critical kind of cachet already. So it's possible.
Yeah.
In the end, though, I want to be careful. It's still a Marvel movie. Like, it's very effective. It's very good. It serves a greater purpose than just being a Marvel movie, but... it's still a Marvel movie. That's all.
Yeah, but then you can get into the conversation. Well, why are action adventure movies and comedies overlooked for Best Picture? Like, why don't they fit there? Is it only like dramatic movies that can be considered good, and the rest of it's just like fluff? Because which I think is a legit argument. There's a reason that Black Panther's making this much money. Certainly it's just become a cultural phenomenon, but also it's good. It's really well done. It's hard to pick apart and find like massive plot holes. The characters are well drawn. You created a whole world. Like, you've got solid characters with arcs all the way through. Like, what else do you want? Does it have to be like a hyper dramatic period piece to be Oscar worthy? I don't think so. Something like this is hard to do. So I don't know. That's a whole different discussion.
And a lot of that's landscape driven, and we'll see what the rest of the year brings.
Yeah. But you're right about Ryan Coogler, especially because, not only is he a young black director, but he's so young. And like, he's 31, and that's Hollywood. It's a good story, you know. Like, we've got this young director who's on the rise, and he's already been nominated for an Oscar. It's like the industry likes to create things like that, you know. Not that he's not worthy. I'm just saying he's a good story himself. And he took this popcorn movie and made it into an Oscar contender, you know. So, yeah, we'll see. We will see.
So, anything else from the Marvel universe that you're kind of looking forward to before we wrap up? It's going to be a little bit shorter of a podcast for us, about a half hour, but I think we covered it. So,
yeah,
kind of looking ahead.
I mean, Infinity War obviously comes out in May, so I can't wait for that. I mean, I'm looking forward to that. This is just, I can't wait for it. I will be there the minute it opens, and then probably right after it again. And if it's bad, I'll be devastated.
It's hard to imagine that one's going to be bad, though.
Oh, I know. I mean, it's the thing is, you've got all these characters. You already know it's well cast. Like that, so you've already cleared that hurdle. The Russo brothers.
Yeah, it features my favorite directors from the series, from the cinematic universe so far.
Yeah, they may. I mean, Captain America: Winter Soldier is my number one of all the Marvel movies. It is by far the best one, I think. And Captain America: Civil War is right up there too. So, I mean, these guys know what they're doing. So, and the anticipation of this is just like, you know, I mean, obviously since the first Iron Man, it's been building toward this, but since we saw Thanos for the first time in the very end of the first Avengers movie, you know, which is 5 years ago now, you know, it's been building toward this. So it's certainly been put together well and pieced together over time, and the patience they've shown in doing this was just like pretty amazing. So,
well, and what's interesting about, and this back to Black Panther, and this is something that I had said to other people, was that it felt stylistically and voice wise more similar to a Russo than like any of the Thor movies, or I mean, that was the one of the things about the Black Panther movie that stuck out to me, is that tonally it was more on the serious end of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that I always think of those as kind of the leaders in the clubhouse of the best.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
they certainly. I mean, yeah, what you said.
I wonder if that was Ryan Coogler, or if that was thought by Kevin Feige and the people running the whole universe, or I just wonder how some of these decisions are made.
Yeah, I mean, nobody really knows how that machine like cranks stuff out, but certainly Feige has an amazing way to keep and it's very similar to the comic books, where you had all these different artists, but they had, you know, what they had back then, they had things called like style guides, just like you do for like writing in certain places. It's like, this is what Spider-Man's costume looks like. And these are the basic character traits that, you know, you can't have Captain America do X, Y, or Z. And it's almost like they have a style guide for these things, where it's like, okay, these are the borders we need to stay in. You know, you got to stay in this box, but within this box, do whatever the hell you want. Yeah. And that's kind of made them all feel cohesive, which is what's so cool. You go from Thor, which the Thor Ragnarok, which I also love, which is tonally very different than this, obviously, but you can feel that it's in that same box, you know, so that when Thor and Black Panther meet, it's not going to feel crazy. It's not going to feel like a gimmick. It's going to work. So, yeah, and I think that does come from the top. I mean, Kevin Feige has a guiding hand through all of this, but he's been really good. I mean, if you look at all the most recent Marvel movies, I mean, you know, Ryan Coogler obviously is a young director with only a few movies under his belt. The guy who did Spider-Man: Homecoming had only directed a couple indie movies. The Russos obviously came from you know, TV, and they've done a few features, but nothing like that. And like James Gunn with Guardians of the Galaxy came from a totally different place. So they've actually made really what would not from the outside be seen as like risky choices on directors, and they've made really interesting choices for directors. And but somehow it all works. So I mean, you have to kind of credit the guy in charge with all that.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can get back in touch for maybe Solo and also Infinity War, because those will be fun.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll never bring back the full-on summer movie podcast, I don't think, but it is fun to check into that stuff.
Those lifestyle capabilities.
All right, man. I appreciate it very much. Before I let you go, because I don't want the recording to cut off, I just want to again mention Minuteman Tickets. They are sponsoring the podcast. Call Scott or Matt. Avoid the fees. Check out the tickets online at MinutemanTickets.com, but then pick up the phone 614-943-3000 for all your summer concert tickets. Thanks again for listening. We'll talk to you soon. It's been the WaitingForNextYear.com podcast.
Wait. Don't turn it off. Are you still recording?
Yeah, I'm still recording.
Go a minute, get a ticket.